local environmental agency. Apparently one of our neighbors has registered a complaint about all the junk we have lying around the lodge, especially our unfinished projects. I know who it is, too. It's that new guy in the fancy A-frame. He's been giving us grief ever since he saw us cooking weenies over a tire fire. He says the lodge is keeping his property value down. Well, sure it is. It always has. If it didn't, he wouldn't have been able to afford the place. But now he's gone and got the government involved, and I gotta get the car out of here. Actually, they say if I can just remove the engine and the gas tank, they're the biggest environmental hazards. I guess they never smell the upholstery. Now, as always, I like to do two things at once, because that means I can work slower. So I have an idea that'll satisfy the government and increase the property value all at the same time. Can you guess what it is? I'm going to take out the engine and the gas tank, and what do you suppose I'm going to do with them? Exactly right. An automatic lawn sprinkler system. You're good. Okay, now to take out the engine and the gas tank, all you do is take out the engine and the gas tank. The job is pretty easy here. I got everything I need to make the engine go mounted inside the boat here. Now, I had to make a few minor alterations to the water pump to turn it into a sprinkler. First of all, I quadrupled the size of the intake hose, so this baby will pass some serious water. Now I just dropped that into the lake. Okay, now to get my big spray, I took the nozzle off the lodge fire hose and attached that to the output side of the water pump. I'm not really worried about the lodge catching fire. We keep it pretty damp. And here's a little extra piece of ingenuity. I attached the rope just to the one side of the boat, and that way she'll kind of swing and sway with the wind and the waves, and I'll end up getting maximum coverage with my water spray. Oh yeah, and for safety's sake, I added a remote starter. So remember, if the women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy. Second best way to shovel snow. You've seen the deal. Something like this, and then... Oh! Gosh, I've lost my shovel. But if you're married, like I am, you know that cheesy excuses only work once. So this week on Handyman Corner, we're going to show you a better way to plow snow by making a snowplow. We're going to actually use this door as our plow, because so far at the lodge, we're not using it as a door. All right, you see we have a bit of a problem. The door's kind of sitting low on the ground there, so we need something for it to slide on. Now I could put a toboggan under there, or maybe one of those flying saucers, but then I remember the handyman code, huh? Put something you don't use to good use. So I'm gonna use these cross-country skis that Bernice gave me for my birthday after the checkup. They're a little bit too long, so what I would do is just trim them down and just use the tips on those. That would probably work pretty good. Yeah, if you don't have a pair of these, you can pick them up real cheap at a garage sale every time a fat guy has one. All right, that's got it. But you know me, I like to be doing two things at once. That way I can move slower. So if I can also be salting and sanding while I'm plowing, that'll really get the neighbors talking. So what you want to do is get yourself a couple of salt shakers from your local restaurant. You're thinking to yourself, how the heck am I going to get salt shakers from the restaurant? I'll tell you something. Deep pockets help. Oh, just kidding. All right, take the salt shakers and attach them to your tires with the Handyman secret weapon. Now, those units look pretty sharp, don't they? Of course, the key to any kind of a snowplow is you gotta have some weight in the back to make her work, so I'm gonna throw a few yards of sand into the back of the van there. Not only will it give me the weight, the sand will sift down through the rust holes in the floor there and sand the road. And rust the road. All right. Oh. You know, that floor doesn't look too bad. I'm gonna have to punch some holes in that myself. Boy. Well, you might want to wear ear protectors if you... Can you hear me? You smell gas? Can you... Everybody hear me? Am I talking? Hello? Hello? Oh, jeez, my voice is gone. All right. Now, you want a way that everybody's going to be able to see you coming. So I went down to one of them garage sales, got myself a couple of turntables here. And these go real fast if you set them on 78 RPM. At least that's what my grandfather told me. So remember, if the women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy. This week on the Handyman Corner, we're going to show you how to turn a negative into a positive. And I don't just mean hiring him as a producer-director. I'm talking about the frustrations of what happens when your lawnmower meets your garden hose. We've all experienced this, some of us more than others. You know, I've never been involved with any high-level management meetings, but if I'd have been there when they were designing the garden hose and realizing it was going to lie on the lawn and it was going to be a lawnmower going by, I'm not sure I would have picked green, you know, as the ideal color. But, hey, I'm just a consumer, and that carries its own responsibilities. But rather than just throw all these little hoselets into the lake or what have you, I'm going to show you today how you can create some interesting alternatives of using these things. The first one, for example, is a little bit obvious, but this would be your high-volume, long-range drinking straw for those unfortunate times when you're at a party or what have you, and for whatever reason you just can't pick up your beverage, or you can't afford another one, but he's got one, that kind of thing. You know something else? Sound travels in straight lines. People don't know that. It won't go around corners, so you can't hear what they're saying about you down the hall. You have an ear trumpet like this with a flexible hose on it like this. You stand here, you put this end to your ear, and you put the other end. Well, sound travels underwater real good too, so that's another bonus. You ever notice when you pick up a paint can and the handle can just rip right through your skin and just take the bone right off there if you're not careful? You take a little piece of your hose and you slit it up lengthwise. You put that through the handle. And look at that, just goes on there, no problem. And you pick it up, and well, of course, the first thing that you can do, you know, with your hose couplings is you can actually recreate the whole hose just by putting the pieces together. Except it'll be about 3 feet shorter because you got to cut up one of the pieces for washers. And another thing you can do, which I think is darn attractive, is your own personal bike lock. You know, you would probably want to have a bike worth locking for starters. So wrap this around here. And now you would tighten that up real good. Use vice grips or a wrench or, you know, a pipe wrench, whatever you have on there. Because nobody can steal your bike that way unless they have pliers. And criminals just don't think ahead like that. But I think the best application of this is what I'm wearing right here. You see this? You catching this? You getting this on camera? These are suspenders. They go down through my belt loops and up and over with the couplings attached and everything. And the beauty of these is in the winter, you can fill them with some sort of a hearty soup, you know, to keep you warm. I would suggest a cream of mushroom or possibly even a beef barley or soup du jour if you just want to fly by the seat of your pants. But I think these are dandy, and, you know, I'm even thinking of patenting these. I'm going to call them pantyhose. Anyway, until the next time, remember, if the women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy. Oh, you've got a leak here. I'm going to take you outside and show you something you can do with something that everybody has at least one of in their backyard. An old junk car. You know, maybe you found the car or it come with the house, or you just got up one morning and there it was, dropped out of a plane or something. You can tell a lot about people about what that kind of car and they have. And Maybe they just hang out of it for sentimental value, or maybe it has no wheels, but we want to show you something that you can do with these things with a little bit of innovation. Maybe you can make a play fort for the kids, or in our case today, a fabulous, fabulous garden center. Let me show you here. Now, this is the garden shed. And in here, I keep all my gardening tools and my weed whacker, my weed whipper, my weed whip whacker, whack whipper, and the whip and whack, and the weed and the weed eaters and the weedies. They're all in here, and that little fella shouldn't be in there. Now, in this area in the car, you've always wanted a greenhouse. How about a greenhouse with AM/FM radio, heat control, defrost, side vents? Top vents. We don't have a sunroof on this. Maybe you're lucky enough to have a sunroof, and you could even have an air conditioner. You can adjust the air temperature just by rolling up and down the windows, or you want to just blow all the. You want your plants to all grow one way. You just open and just blow, and fabulous, fabulous thing. And let me show you something else we got over here, way over the other side here. This is an interesting way to grow tomatoes. You hook them right onto the radio aerial, and then as the tomatoes grow up, so does the aerial. And the radio waves will give you a very unusual taste. Kind of well, you can set them for heavy metal or middle-of-the-road tomatoes, whatever it is that you want. Now, for your, maybe you got some tropical plants that require a little more warmth, a little more humidity. Here's your spot right here. And these things will grow. You only have to start her up 2-3 times a day, and these will just flourish in here. And, you think about watering your plants and so forth, and I say, why risk getting another hernia, carrying a watering can or what have you, when you've got the rad hose here. You might have to put an extension on that, put another couple extra feet on that, but you take her right back here. I had the greenhouse locked, and get right in there. You got you got safety, we got security, full security here. Get in here, and then all you gotta do is start up your engine. And there we go, and I can just hose her right down there. Thing with that deal is you want to make sure you got the car rust-proofed. And if you want to make your own weed whacker or whip weeder, weedy whipper, weedy weed. How about this? It's the fan out of the heater. Oh, let me show you something else. Now back here, another thing you can do is you just leave the car running, and the exhaust gases, because plants work on carbon dioxide. Well, there's carbon dioxide in there, and there's something else called carbon monoxide, which is, I think, exactly the same thing. And there's lead, and there's pewter, I believe, and I think there's also oat bran in car exhaust. I'm not sure about that. It usually makes me have to go to the bathroom. Anyway, another thing I wanted to show you. This is a fabulous, fabulous invention. This is a hose reel. How many times did I run over the hose with the lawnmower before I got this baby, eh? 17. But I've got a better way of making a hose reel out of this garden center, which will save you a few bucks. Let me show you how that works. All right. So, what we're looking at here is a 200 horsepower hose reel. That saves you a heck of a lot of time and a heck of a lot of energy. And all I got to do is start up the car and drop her into reverse. But before I do, I just like to say, until next time, if the women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy. This week on Handyman Corner, we're going to show you something fun you can do with a bed for those of you who are over 50 and are looking for alternatives. I got this idea when I was stuck in a traffic jam out on the highway. They had one of them big machines that is like a one-step deal. It breaks up the asphalt and pulls it into the thing, and it melts it all down, and then it puts it back down and rolls it flat. And I thought to myself, maybe we could do the same thing for gardening, a one-step machine. And I got this antique bed that was left over from old man Sedgwick's honeymoon, so I knew I wouldn't have to worry about metal fatigue. All right, now, step one, what you want to do is get yourself an outboard motor and mount this to the footboard, or as we call it, the transom. Okay, and when you mount it with the prop going forward, because this here is going to be your cultivator. Now, if you got the loam, you might be able to get by with, say, 9.5 Evinrude set for trolling. But if your yard is full of clay and stones and maybe a couple of buried wood stoves, you might have to move up to a 300-horse Mercruiser V6 with trim tabs and power tilts. Maybe get the prop off a Cessna 150. But either way, whatever engine you use, you're going to mount it onto the bed using exactly the same technology. The handyman's secret weapon, duct tape. Now, if you go with the big motor on this, you might want to use, say, 2 or 3 rolls of duct tape and then really secure down maybe 100-pound test line or even a couple of coat hangers. Now, I've used the same technique to attach these coat racks to the sides of the footboard, and we got a couple of hot water bottles hung here. Really stripped out old man Cedric's room for this project. And we got plant food in this one, we got weed killer in this one, and then they come down through these hoses. It's a gravity feed, kind of like Moose Thompson on spaghetti night. And then the two chemicals are joined together into this bedpan where they're turned into fertilizer. Kind of apropos, isn't it? Now I've added a reading light to the coat rack there. I mean, what we'd ever need a reading light at the lodge for is beyond me. But this allows us to do our planting at night. And the hot water bottles are all set to go here, and I've added an umbrella for a little extra protection, which is something you want to think about when you're near a bed. And now these pillowcases I mounted on the back here, what I'm going to do is, I filled the one, I'll just top this baby up with some flower seeds, and then the seeds come out the hole in the bottom, planting flowers as we go. I got some bulbs here, and I'll just fill up my pockets with the bulbs, and what I can do with them, see, is just bounce them off the bed as we're going along, just like that, you know? Oh, missed the bed. No. We used to do that. As kids. Of course, we used hamsters. And we're about right. You know what? You know what would be, I think, a real treat here is, why don't I go and put my pajamas on just to kind of get in the spirit of the whole rig here. Hang on a sec. I forgot. These are my pajamas. Okay, well, I think we're all set. And just before we turn a real ugly-looking piece of crap into a real nice garden, I just remind you that if the women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy. Now, I'll just start this up. Okay. Umbrella up there. And we're going gardening.